From the earliest days in history, barbers have had a special place in society. They were once thought to drive evil spirits away that might enter the body through the hair on your head. Later, the Greeks introduced barbering to the Romans, and the tonsorial was created. Starting in the Middle Ages, barbers were called upon to do much more, from bloodletting to minor surgery to tooth extraction. The barbershop was also a place where boys learned how to become men. Tonight, we talk about Tampa's steep tradition of neighborhood life and how in many ways it's centered around the barbershop. Don Barco is our guest.
I'm Steve Canella.
I'm Sally Nunez.
I'm Mario Nunez. Those stories plus your calls tonight on the Tampa Native Show.
Otra vez. Come here. Let me say something. I remember Tampa, the way she used to be, the places we would run to, the faces we would see. Yes, I remember Tampa, those precious memories, a city rising on the move, a simple yet progressive groove. I remember Tampa, and she remembers me. Yeah. She remembers me.
Welcome to the Tampa Native Show. Stay tuned now for the fastest 60 minutes in cable broadcast history. Live from the studios at TBCN, the home of the Tampa Native Show. Join your hosts, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella, as they celebrate growing up in Tampa. From Shock Armstrong to Shakey's Pizza, from Braddock Street to Buffalo Avenue. Get ready to call in and tell us your stories, because sharing your memories has never been this much fun. And now, Mario Nunez, the 15-Minute Girl, and Steve Canella.
She remembers me.
Hi, Tampa Native Show fans. Wow, this night is going to be magical.
It's going to be fun.
And as always, I'm Mario Nunez, seated alongside my broadcast partners, Tampa Steve and the 15-Minute Girl. This is our esteemed guest tonight, Don Barco. We'd like to say welcome one and all. We know tonight is a special night because we heard from you all day today on Facebook. Facebook was a buzz with communication and comments relative to tonight's topic. And if you haven't guessed already, it's barbershops as a way of life here in Tampa. Steep tradition of barbering here in Tampa. You know, it was an honorable profession. Don, you know full well because you experienced some of that in your early life. And we absolutely are thankful that you guys are there tonight. Let me just share with you that when we put this show together last week, we were talking and we weren't quite sure how this was going to turn out. Because when we left the studio last week, we didn't have an idea. Lo and behold,
we had an idea.
Somebody put the idea in our head. Why don't you think about barbershops? And we said, well, why not?
Why not?
And just like the show that we did on Tampa Bay Center, what started out slow, quickly gained momentum.
Steamroll.
It's like pushing that snowball downhill, and all of a sudden today we had a tiger by the tail. The comments were hot and heavy.
The pictures were hot and heavy today, too.
The pictures came hot and heavy, and they came a little late. That's another thing that we're going to talk about in just a minute.
Discuss that.
Thank you so much. We know that we have some new viewers tonight. Thank you for looking in on us. We will be soliciting for your phone calls in just a little bit. As if you know already, tonight's topic is all about barbershops. Now, if you have access to the internet, we're going to ask also that you send us an email here on the set, because once we do open the phone lines, it's going to be crazy. And it may be difficult for you to get in. What we're trying to ascertain tonight is if you had a neighborhood barbershop, where did you go? Who was your barber? And tell us where that was. Send it to Steve. Steve, give him that email address.
That will be goodtimes@tampanativeshow.com. There it is on the screen.
Perfect.
And you know, there had to be hundreds and hundreds of barbershops when we were growing up in Tampa.
In
There were
Ybor
a
City,
lot.
they
In
were.
Ybor City alone, there
Yeah.
must have been
Every
barber
neighborhood
shops to beat the
had
band.
barber
On
shops.
7th Avenue, I can remember driving down 7th Avenue when the school bus,
Sure.
after school, when I went to Washington. And there were 5 or 6 barber shops within just a few short blocks. Where my store is now,
Yes.
right next door to me. There's an empty lot there. There was a barber
That was a barber shop.
That was a barber shop, yeah.
Well, we know this for a fact because our research has told us so. And we're also thinking that, some of our viewers out there, some of our fans out there were probably from barbering families.
Yeah.
Right.
And we got pictures today. One of the pictures in particular said, my uncle owned that shop, and oh, by the way, 3 out of the 4 brothers were
Right.
barbers.
Right.
So it was kind of it was a thing,
Tradition.
Don, that if one person went into the profession, typically, maybe 3 or 4 went into it.
Well, the guy, when I went to Tampa Barber College, the gentleman who owned the school, Mr. Uvino, Steve Uvino, he had, I think, 5 kids that were all barbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And a number of them are still cutting hair.
Amazing.
Nice.
Well, and then of course, Steve and I were talking about it a little bit in pre-production this week. We had the occasion to start our youth, our lives, if you will, when we were young,
Yep.
going with our grandfathers, going with our fathers to the local barber shop. There was, in many cases, within walking distance from your house.
Bicycle.
Or at least
Yeah.
a short bike ride.
Not
We
too
would go
far.
with our grandfathers, we would go with our fathers. And then, of course, when we got into our teenage years, barbering gave way, the barber shop gave way to the beauty salon or the salon, the hair salon.
Unisex.
Styling
The
salon.
So before that, of course, you had, in the same complex, Don, you might have had the barber shop was here on the left, and that door just to the right was
Beauty
the beauty
shop.
salon.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
beauty shop.
Yeah.
So the men went and got their shave and their haircut, the women got their wash and set. And then, of course, in the 70s, that all kind of came together. We saw that
Sure
happen,
did.
Steve.
We were in
But
the
we
middle
still
of it.
have barber shops.
And
Yeah.
Don
Yeah,
was
so-
cutting hair during that time.
Yeah, I sure was.
So you made the transition not only in a personal sense, going from the wet head
Right.
to the wet head being dead,
Right.
to the hot comb, to the Conair 1800, man.
That big mother, it's
Oh, it weighed
even
about
the
14 pounds.
Yeah, you
It
had
was
to
all
have
metal.
you had to have a forklift.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and you were like Rod Laver. One arm was much bigger than the other one because you knew which arm.
And what you were doing in the salon all day, you
Sure,
really your arms.
yeah.
At the end of the day, I bet you
Yeah.
were tired.
Yeah.
But wow, what a magical,
What was the
magical
hot
time.
comb? I don't remember the hot comb.
The hot comb, if I remember, it was by Norelco. It was a very popular gift, or circa 1971, 72, when the wet head was. Remember, the wet head is dead.
Remember the
Remember that whole
commercials, yeah.
campaign on TV when Vitalis and Brill Cream were going away, and
Butch
that kind
Wax.
of that surfer thing was in where you flipped your hair back. The hot comb was maybe about a 10 or 12 inch
Metal.
metal and plastic. It was basically a little blower,
Oh.
and then on the end of it was a brush.
Right.
And the air came out of that brush essentially. So
Okay.
as you combed, you were drying your hair as you were combing.
I see.
This was the progression between mom's hair dryer, where you put the bag
The
on your
bag,
head,
yeah.
Under the hood.
to then the two-handed, and that was another operation that you had to become, kind of adept at that. You had one with the brush and one with the blower.
And then on the
I had to know.
professional side of it, we had all these tools that that weren't sold, for.
Oh,
Yeah.
the diffuser, the
Oh,
big
my gosh.
diffuser.
There was something similar to what you were talking about.
Sure.
It had like a fork on it, and it was a kind of straighten hair. And I already have straight hair, so one day to test it out, I ran it through my hair. It looked like somebody hit me with a hatchet. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. But those were all sold to you by, I guess, the professional
Yeah,
vendors
professional, yeah,
that would
yeah.
come in and say, look, this is your attaché, and you've got all of these instruments.
Very
Well,
nice.
this is-
Very
the
nice.
profession itself,
Yes.
being in that, it's fantastic. I absolutely love the time that I was in that business.
How could you not? Because first of all, as the old mantra, who knows? No, she's not talking, but only her hairdresser
Right.
knows for
Right.
sure.
We did.
Remember, so
And we still keep those secrets.
right. So there was an omerta. There was a lot of that stuff going on where the conversations you had with your hairstylist, your barber, as it were, not that much unlike what you had with your clergy. I
Right.
mean, in other words,
Well, you
man, you had
trusted them.
confianza. Confianza was
Yeah.
a big
That's
thing.
right.
A lot of
that's
trust.
right.
And why? Because there were 3 generations. I mean, your grandfather went to this barber, your father went to this
Right,
barber,
right.
and you went to this. So for 30,
Rite
35
of
years,
passage.
this was the guy that you saw every 3 weeks to get your hair cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Back then, sure, we got our hair cut more
Every
often.
2 weeks, every 3 weeks, because you had to be neat. So let me read this real quick to you guys, and then we'll go right to our phones. I know our phone lines are already ringing. I'm just going to give you a little history on barbering, if you will. And I pulled this off the internet, so this is out there in the interwebs. A barber, from the Latin word barba, which means beard, is a person whose occupation is mainly to cut, dress, groom, style, and shave men's and boys' hair. The barber's trade has a long history. Razors have been found among relics from the Bronze Age, circa 3500 BC. Barbering was introduced to Rome by the Greek colonies in Sicily, Steve, in 296 BC. And barbershops quickly became very popular centers for daily news and gossip. That's why they're traditionally to this day. A morning visit to the tonsure became a part of your daily routine, as important as a visit to the public baths. And a young man's first shave, tonsura, was considered an essential part of your coming of age ceremony. This is where it really gets interesting. Starting in the Middle Ages, barbers often served as surgeons and dentists. In addition to haircutting, hairdressing, shaving, barbers performed surgery, bloodletting and leeching, fire cupping, enemas, and extraction of teeth.
I did all that. I didn't do the
Minus the
enemas.
enemas.
I did everything
Minus
else.
the enemas, of course. Earning them the name of barber surgeons. The barber pole featured the red and white spiraling stripes indicating the two crafts, surgery in red and barbering in white. Barbers received, check this, barbers received higher pay than surgeons until surgeons entered the British War, British warships during the naval wars. Some of their duties of barbering included neck manipulation, which today is what we consider chiropractic, cleansing of ears and scalp, and this is where it gets really, really interesting, draining of boils, fistula, and lancing of cysts with wicks. I'm just saying that because
I didn't do any of those classes.
No, but again, we think of barbering as the guy that you would go to get your hair cut, and that's true. That was true. But in the earliest days, barbers, because of their deft skill with the blade, were called upon to do many other things. And bloodletting is among one of the most interesting things.
We've talked about Game of Thrones. That's
Yes.
throughout the Game
Yes.
of Thrones.
Yes.
Well, you know, it made sense. too,
3,500 BC, so
Wow.
razors have been around for a great long while.
It made sense. You can get a haircut, have a surgery, and get a tooth pulled all at the same time.
And on your way out the door, get a mint.
Get a mint.
Bubble gum, yeah.
Or a
Bubblegum,
bubble
that's
gum. All right. Listen, we've got callers already lining up. So why don't we go ahead, Darling, and give them that number, because we want to get right to your calls. It's 10 minutes after the hour. We want to hear from each and every one of you, Darling. That number?
Yes, that number is 813-977-6800. 813-977-6800.
From our very own 15-minute girl. Don will be here. We'll be having a conversation as the evening progresses, but tonight's a special night, and we definitely want to hear from you. What was your barber shop? Where did you go to? Who did you go see for your first, if you remember your first haircut? And tell us an experience perhaps that you remember distinctly. And boy, I mean, were there ever experiences at the barber shop? I mean, there was.
I've got my first haircut when I moved to Tampa. I lived on Palmetto Beach. I don't know if I told you this. I went to Toledo's barbershop, and this guy was a master. I mean, when you walked into Toledo's to get your haircut, he was on. He was performing.
Nice.
He was giving you a haircut, but he was, and stitches, everybody was laughing. But my first haircut, he had a Cuban barber who worked for him, who back then, you could still do this. He was smoking a cigar while he was cutting my hair. So, back then, we wore the flat tops,
Sure.
back in the 50s. So he's cutting my hair, and he's kind of squinching like this as he's cutting my hair. And so when he got done, I was so shocked, and I was like 8 years old. I looked in the mirror, and I had a perfect flat top. And two different, it was about a half-inch longer. So I was in shock, and I went home, and my mother grabbed me by the hand, and she goes, "You got to finish the other side." So there was a lot of interplay with just the locals there, and Toledo had I don't know if you ever saw the trick that they would do in the barbershops with the squirrel tail.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he had a box rigged. It was a wooden box, and it had wire on the side, and it had this tail, and he goes, "Have you ever seen my squirrel?" And I said, "No." He goes, "I haven't." And you would go over it, and he would get up. He goes, "Go ahead, you can touch it." And right when you were reaching for it, he had a little latch with a spring, and the thing would, pow, and it would scare the crap out of you.
Oh, wow.
So, and years ago, 15 years ago, a friend of mine's mother passed. At her funeral, all the guys from the neighborhood where we grew up on Palmetto Beach were at the funeral. And Toledo was there, and we're in the back before the service started, and we're in the back of the room, and in 10 minutes, we were all howling. And the aunt came and said, you have to shut
Respeto,
up.
respeto.
Somebody died. And
Respeto.
it was just like going back to our childhood.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? That was
That's
the
interesting.
barbershop was not only the repository for stories, but like you said, if you had a good barber that was also entertaining,
Oh.
it made it an event.
Yes.
Yeah.
You looked forward to going to the barber because you knew, even if you had to wait 30 minutes, that was going to be a great 30 minutes. And that was even before a lot of times TVs or radios were in there, you know? They did the
Yes,
entertainment.
yeah.
And
Now
I
the
was
TV's on the wall.
fortunate enough to work when I was cutting hair. I was working for someone that was one of the most fun people I've ever been around. Danny Hernandez was like that.
Was that at Bangs and Burns?
That was at Bangs and Burns.
Bangs and Burns.
And Danny was an actor. He was a singer, and he could tell stories, and he was infectious. And if you knew him
Lively
10
place to
seconds,
be.
you were a lifelong friend.
Ah.
It was a great story.
Let's see who's been waiting the longest. I believe that's caller on line 4. Let's see who's on line 4. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hey guys, this is Skipper from Seminole.
Well, there he is.
Hi,
Hey,
Joe.
Skipper, how are you?
Good. I'd like to say hi to Don.
Joe
Hi, Skip.
Abini. Joe Abini
Hey,
right there.
Joe.
I want to tell you what I had the experience was that I had the Monte brothers. They Gasper Sam, Gasper Tony, I think it was a Gasper Joe, but we rented from them in Ybor City and 1212 25th Avenue. It was in a little apartment with 4 units in it, 2-story. We lived upstairs, but I never got haircuts at a shop when I was a kid till 9 or 10 years old because the Montes would cut our hair at the house.
Oh, wow.
nice.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and also the Monte family, they were big outdoors, big hunters. So
Sure.
we always had rabbit and dove and quail and hogs and stuff that they would, bring to us, and we would use
Wow.
our sauce or, our suco and have some spaghetti. So, but I really had a great experience because those people were just wonderful and
Generous.
very generous, and we never paid for a haircut as long as I can ever
Wow.
remember because of the Montes.
How
Nice.
terrific a
Good
story
story.
is that? Thanks for sharing that story, Skipper. You know what? Barbers were central to our lives, man, for a lot of years. And that's what we're determining now. That's what's coming out. We've got some wonderful pictures that we're going to start showing here in just a couple of minutes because you're not going to believe these images. Give us your Lucky Bolita number.
Number 3.
3.
Some things
we
never
got
change.
it.
Skipper, thanks for calling in tonight.
Yeah, and hello, Don.
Bye, Joe. Take care, buddy.
We'll
Nice
see you
to
soon. We'll see you soon. We miss you.
Definitely.
Yep, I'm around.
Okay.
Thanks, Skip.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Good
That's
evening.
great. Caller on line 5. We do have
It's
a
good to
line
be
open.
Joe.
It's good to be Joe, man. He never paid for our haircut until he was, in this. Yeah, that's great. And they gave him squirrel and duck.
Yeah.
And
Hog.
Hi, caller. You're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Robert Gonzalez.
Hey,
Hi,
Robert
Robert.
Gonzalez. What say you?
Hey, all right. Where I got my first haircut
Uh-huh.
was on 7th Avenue, not too far from King Corona at Aldo Toledo's barbershop.
Okay.
And then when my family moved to West Tampa, I used to go to a barber on Armenia called Armando's barbershop. They would call him Armandito.
I remember that one, too. That was
And there was a 2-chair shop. The other guy who worked in the other chair was a guy named Charlie. I can't remember his last name. He lived about a block away from me. He already passed. And he left to start his own shop. And Armando used to charge us $1 to get a haircut.
$1.
Wow.
And Charlie
$1.
came over and talked to my dad, because my dad used to go to Charlie, and he said, hey, I'm having my own shop on Armenia, right in the same little strip mall as Al's Sandwich Shop was.
Yes, of course, by Wishart there.
Yeah, and it's called Charlie's Barbershop. And then after that, I went back to Aldo when he moved to 22nd Street on Palmetto Beach
Uh-huh.
for a little while. And then when I got older and I got a little bit more concerned about the way I looked,
Yes, as we all did.
I started going to Colonial Barbershop.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, uptown.
Now you was breaking out the big money.
Yeah, that's right.
Now it was $5.50.
Yeah, and Colonial was owned by 2 Tampa natives. It was owned by 2 brothers who graduated from the original Jefferson High School,
Uh-huh.
Reuben Pedregal And Arthur Pedregal, the guy who Charlie Miranda bought his first horse from. Racing.
Oh, I remember him saying that.
And not from, he went partners
Sure.
with Charlie Miranda buying the first horse. And then I continued going to Colonial until Colonial closed down. And then Reuben Pedregal, who was my barber, called me up and told me the shop where he started working at, which was a woman's shop. He was the only guy, and it was a place on Himes and Cypress, which is right down the street from where Colonial Barber Shop.
Right, because it was on Cypress, that's right.
Yeah.
Sort of around Hector's and Little Lisa's, the gym.
Right.
Yeah, but now now Carrie cuts my hair because the little bit of hair I had.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That's a wonderful
That's a great
chronology.
story.
But you see how important it was. And when you found a good barber, when you found a good stylist, you stayed with them. Well, quite honestly, until you had no hair left, man, because it was important.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And you know what? I always mention this to the barber, especially as I got now, as I've gotten older. And, you know, I say, listen, I can appreciate you wanting to show your work. In other words, you know, because they take out the mirror and they want to show you the back to show how even it is and how nice they did. But I would always tell them, look, man, if you want a tip, stay away from that spot up in the top. Boy, just don't let me see that. And they'd all laugh. But you got to give them that tip anyway. Yeah. Robert, what's your bolita number?
37.
37.
Mondra. I believe Mondra were number 37. Because Laca was 36. Don't get me started. All right, Robert, thank you so much for calling.
All right. So long.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great
You
call.
see, and you know what? I went to a barber. I remember my abuelo when I was 3, 4, 5 years old would take me all the way to Ybor City from West Tampa where we lived. And we'd go to the barber shop, and I asked my cousin today, I was talking with my cousin Jerry DeMarco, because Jerry lived just down the street, Chris's little brother, and I said, Jerry, what was the name of that barber shop just up the street, about 4 blocks from your house on 14th and around 24th? He said, Joe the Barber. I said, okay, Joe the Barber, but did Joe have a last name? I don't know. Nobody knew his name. It was just Joe the Barber.
Joe the Barber.
He had a little casita that was adjacent, not attached, but adjacent to his house, much akin to like what we consider our utility rooms
Like a
in the
shed
houses in
type
West
thing?
Tampa.
Right.
It wasn't a shed. It was a concrete block
okay.
structure that couldn't have been any more than 12 by 12, if that. And he had 2 chairs in there. In the summertime, it was hot as hell. But you went in there and you sat with your grandfather, and then, of course, they put the little booster chair because the little kids always needed the booster chair.
Yeah.
But what wonderful memories from the earliest days. And then a little bit later, when I got older, in my neighborhood, I talked today to Joe Cruz, and Joe Cruz's uncle, George, owned the barber shop that was just on Dale Mabry, just south of Cypress. And, you know, you went with your dad or your grandfather in the car until you were big enough to ride your bike. And then you got on your bike because now you're a man of independent means. So you got on your little bike and you rode over there. Rites of Passage. And the Barber College was on Gray Street, about 6 blocks away from my house. But we didn't want to go to the Barber College too much because, you know, sometimes they could leave a cucaracha on your head. And it wasn't too good. It wasn't too. I told. Go ahead, Stevie.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of Barber College, we have a picture.
You got a photo?
We do.
Should we start going through some of those
Yeah,
photos?
we probably should, yeah.
God, look at the callers, man. They're all over the place.
Maybe a few, and we'll
All right.
break away.
Let's go ahead. Stevie, what do you say? You want to call for a photo?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's call for one.
Let's bring up number 0A, actually, or 0 Tampa Barber College. And
Look
I
at
got this picture from my former barber.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, and he has several pictures.
Is this it here, Stevie?
No, this is not it. This is not it. It's I'm sorry. It should be 0. Is there one called Tampa Barber College? Well, we're on this photo.
There it is.
There it is.
Is that it
That's
there?
it right
Be
there.
the one
Yeah.
that was downtown.
That's the
And
one
he-
downtown
and he
because that's not
mentioned
the one
that,
on
right.
Gray Street.
Right.
It
What
was
was
just
your
off Dale
former
Mabry.
barber's name?
What year?
John Najarian.
Is he watching tonight?
He's in Naples right now. He may be watching online.
We hope that he is. Hi,
I think
John.
he is.
Thanks for sending that photo.
He's got a few more photos he's going to send to me, and if we do part 2, which we probably will.
We have to.
We'll show those photos then.
But look at that image right
Yeah,
there,
look at
man.
that.
Classic, rectangular building.
Simple.
4 or 5 chairs, 6 chairs
Look
maybe.
at the ceiling.
And that's the college. So that's the.
Yeah.
And I think he said it was near the police station, somewhere around there.
Then it was downtown near the
Yeah.
police station on
Right,
Tampa
right,
Street.
exactly.
On Tampa Street, maybe by the river there. What a great photo. And this might be a good time. If you want to roll the next picture back, roll the next picture right quick. Look at that, Stevie.
Wow.
What's this image here?
You know what? This one
Do we
here,
know?
that is Eagle Barbershop.
Eagle Barber Shop.
1946.
1946.
Look at the fan.
Do we
on the
know
wall.
where it was?
The oscillating fan. You know what? I'm not 100% sure.
Anybody out there know where
Dan-
Eagle was? Give us a call. Let us know
You
or
know who
send
would
us
know?
an
The
email.
barbers are wearing bow ties.
The barbers
Yeah.
are wearing bow ties. Tremendo.
Classy.
Tremendo. Long sleeve shirts.
Professionals.
Professional. And you know the thing about barberos too, and you're a prime example of that, Don. they had a tremendous amount of pride in their own appearance.
Yes.
Obviously,
Well,
you're not
that was
going to go
part
to
of the gig.
You're not going to go to a dentist with bad teeth.
Right.
You're not going to go to a barbero that is unkempt.
Had to look good.
Had to look good.
right.
So they usually had that comb in their top
comb,
pocket
yeah.
with the real small
taper
teeth.
comb. Taper comb.
Taper comb. Real small teeth.
In the next two photos, let's take a look at those real quick.
And then we'll go to our callers.
These are 1948 photos, picture number 2 and 3.
How about that one, Steve?
Beautiful.
Look at that.
Man, that is a
That is gorgeous.
That's in a hotel.
What hotel was that,
That's
Steve?
the Tampa Terrace Hotel,
The
downtown
Tampa Terrace Hotel.
So all the
That's high cotton there, baby. You're
Yes.
tall cotton in that.
Yes,
You know what I
yes.
mean?
In fact, the next picture proves that. They're giving manicures too.
Oh.
Take a
Look
look
at the
this.
flooring. Look at the flooring. Look at the mirrors. That's
mirrors are incredible.
amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
Wow, tremendous.
Amazing.
Let's go to caller on line 4 first. He's been waiting the longest, and we'll come right back to these photographs in just a minute. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Well, hi, Tampa Native Show. This is Preston Hare.
Hi, Preston Hare.
Preston Hare.
Hi, Preston.
Hare. Hi, Preston. Is this
Did
Preston?
you forget there for a second?
Preston, is this the first time you call our show?
No, it is not, and of course,
Was that a yes?
No.
no.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Preston, listen to us on the telephone and talk to us
Yeah.
because that 7-second delay, if
very
you're waiting for
tricky.
the response on the TV, it'll get you every time. Hey, Preston, how are you?
I'm just fine. I just have felt obligated to call you all since I have no hair.
Yes. And you know
But
what?
you did have hair.
Just like, I have to say this, Preston, for our audience to enjoy, just like whenever you say the word Publix, you have to say where shopping is a pleasure. Now, whenever I say Preston, the man who has no hair. Let's go ahead, Preston. Take it away.
Well, of course. You know,
Hey,
I always went down to Jimmy's Barber Shop on Central Avenue in Hannah.
Jimmy's on Central and Hannah.
And, you know, you were right. I always knew him as Jimmy the Barber. Never knew his last name. But he introduced me to Brill Cream and Dippity Doo
Oh.
There you go.
because I had one of the biggest DAs in high school.
Wow.
Ah,
And those in the audience who know what a DA is, I'm not
yes.
DA stands for Ducks Attire.
All right, yeah.
Booty.
happy.
Ducks Arse, I
Ducks
believe Ducks
anterior.
Arse. Yeah, Ducks
Ducks
anterior, Ducks
anterior.
Arse. The little Donald Duck flippy thing that goes like that.
Very good.
There you go. Well,
Very
they played a
nice.
big part of our lives, absolutely.
really
And
did.
when you found a good barber, you stayed with them. We know that as well.
Yes,
Preston,
yes, I did. And now I cannot go to a barber at all.
now you need to make sure that you're stocked with razor blades. And can we reveal at this time, at 30 minutes past the hour, can we reveal at this time that you're going to be our guest next week? It'd be a good time to let everybody know. Preston, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Preston here, who's on the phone with us now, will be our guest in studio next week. So
I think you're right. I am going to be on.
yes, you are. So we'll get a
hope
chance
so.
to meet him in person. Preston is going to tell us all about growing up in the area that was around Sulphur Springs, and he's a Tampa native, a proud Tampa native with great stories.
Good
so,
stories, yeah.
And I will put powder on my head.
there you go. He's going
for
to take the
you.
shine off. Use some of that Clubman talc, okay?
Yeah, you can tell them I love what you've done with your
Okay,
head.
guys.
Thanks,
Thank you, Preston.
What's your
lucky
Bolita
Bolita number?
Okay, number 40.
40 it
40.
is.
Okay.
Thank you, my good man. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Preston.
That'd be
Bye-bye.
fun.
That's Preston
funny.
Hare, who
Yes.
has none.
Yes, I mean, cue
ironic.
ball
No. And when we can tell him next week, we love what you've done
with your head.
Your head.
Yeah.
That's funny.
All right, Stevie. Let's let that caller sit for just a minute. Go back to picture. Was it number 4? This was kind of a cool
Yes,
picture right
very
here, Beck. If
interesting.
you want to show picture number 4,
The
look at that.
Sanitary Barbershop.
Sanitary Barber
That's
Shop.
the name
Is
of
that
it.
what it
Because
says?
really and truthfully,
Wow.
that's the place that you want your haircut from because you really don't want to go to the
Dirty barber shop,
unsanitary
yeah.
barber shop.
And that's the restaurant I want to go to, too.
And the restaurant, Steve.
The
would
very
like to-
clean barber
Yes.
shop.
Sanitary
yes.
restaurant.
Yes, and it begs the question, Steve, if you're eating at the sanitary restaurant, what are you wiping your mouth with?
Sanitary
I'm not gonna
napkin.
go
A sanitary napkin. There it is. Stevie didn't want to go there, but we did.
I went there.
But the 15-minute
Barber
girl,
Jeopardy. Yeah.
in the form of a question, what is a sanitary napkin?
Never mind. Moving on.
That's a great photo, though.
Next picture.
Yeah.
Next image.
Look at this, a majestic
Majestic
barbershop.
barbershop.
Look
Sure.
at that. Advertising
And have a
cigars,
Tampa.
too. Yeah.
You can have a
Have a
cigar.
Tampa probably paid for the.
You know they did
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
signage.
absolutely.
For the
Yeah.
signage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, barbershops could have been on the lower level.
Or
and
upstairs.
apartments could have been atop, and the barber himself could have been in residence
Yeah.
above the shop, because in those days, you know, you might have lived above your
Right,
place of
absolutely.
work.
Lots of people
And he
did.
bore a special.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great image. The next one, Steve?
You know, the next three are Salvador Zayas.
Okay, let's talk about Salvador for
this.
just a minute.
Go right ahead.
103 years old currently. Got a call today from his son, and this is a wonderful story here, because the man is still with us. What a repository of stories he must be.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
103 years young. At 100 years of age, the city made a proclamation, and we're going to talk about that the next time we do our show on barbering, because we know already for a fact that we can't leave it here. There's going to be too much. The next image, I guess, will show you what Salvador looks like today. There he is.
Looks pretty good.
And he looks pretty good for his age.
Incredible.
103. 103.
He looks
Mike,
good for my age.
Mike Baluha sent us some information. Do you have that email, Steve?
You
Do
don't-
we have that currently?
No, we don't.
No? Okay. Maybe if we can find it, we'll read that in just a few minutes. And there's one more image of
And
Mr.
he still has
Zayas.
hair.
Yeah, he does,
Yes.
doesn't he? And he
I'm
still handles that
impressed at
comb.
103.
And there he is
And he
enjoying
still smokes cigars.
Fumando un tabaco. Yeah.
Fumando Tabaco. Thank you for sharing
Very
those
nice.
images with us, Mr. Marvel. We appreciate that so
Very
much.
nice. Very nice.
And it's so good that your dad is still here and he can still share those stories.
Absolutely.
The Minardi family is another family that is a
Interesting
well-known
story.
well-known Tampa family name. Also owners of barber shops, own 5 barber shops in Tampa. Michael Minardi sent us a rather lengthy email that if I get an opportunity, I'm going to read it to you guys. I need to, because it really does tell a great story about the Minardi family of barbers. Let's see, is it caller on 4 or 5? Which should we go to first? All right, let's go to line 5. And caller, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Angelo Rumore from Tampa, Florida.
Hi,
Hi,
Angelo
Angelo.
Rumore from Tampa, Florida. Now, are you part of the Rumore, the Ybor City Rumores or the West Tampa Rumores?
The Ybor City.
I always have to
All right.
ask
I
that
know.
because I know anyway. Hey, Angelo, how are you?
Good, good.
Tell us a barbershop story, man. Tell us where you went to get your hair cut.
Well, my first haircut was at the Manhattan Barber Shop.
Okay,
Ah.
It was on 7th Avenue and 19th Street,
okay.
2 doors down from the old Silver Ring.
Wow. Get yourself a haircut
that?
and go and get
In the
you a
Cuban?
Cuban sandwich.
Yeah, that was 69 years ago.
Ooh.
Man, that's before my time, Angelo, I got to say. Just a little.
It was owned by 2 brothers called Tommy and Joe Pendino.
Pendino.
And
Pendinos.
I cut my hair there till I joined the service in 1963.
Okay.
And when I came back in 67, they had retired, and I had to change barbers.
Oh,
That's a devastating time for you, man. When your barber moves out, when your barber is no longer available to you, that's like, what I got to do now? I got to find a new barber. It's not easy to do, Don.
No.
Right.
And Don's right here. We can ask him in just a minute. I'd like to know the other side of that. What is it when you lose a good client or a good customer?
yeah,
you know, so
well-
they're friends because you know you,
Well-
Yeah, you do
go
make
into
friends.
friendships with
Yeah.
these people.
yeah.
Also, economically, you're losing a client.
That's right.
But, you know, some of these people, you really become family.
Family,
it's
extended
family.
family.
So
Yeah.
it's very sad. Sure.
Angelo, Ybor City was a great place to grow up back then, wasn't it?
Oh, man, it was great. I lived right there on 8th Avenue and 19th Street.
Angelo, were you related to, or are you related to Loretta and Philip Rumore?
Probably. They were my father's cousins.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school with them at Washington.
There you go.
Ah.
The Ybor City Rumores
Small
were
world.
everywhere, man. Except for in West Tampa, because those were the West
Those are-
Tampa
they're
Rumores.
different.
You know that too.
Another country.
shock
yeah.
I got was that after getting beautiful haircuts till I was 18 years old when I joined the service, going to the Air Force and then getting terrible haircuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't care.
With ample cucarachas, because they really didn't care. Put the
Yeah.
hat on. Put your lid on.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
being
Even,
sadist, that was part of the
Sadistic.
routine.
Yeah.
Sadistic. And what must that have been like? Because you guys were of the Elvis Presley generation, to go from, you know, the DA and combing
Hair.
your fantastic locks, those of you that were fortunate enough to have that kind of
White
mane.
walls.
Yeah. And using the grease on your hair and all that.
Yeah, man. To white walls. Wow. Angelo, give us your bolita number.
24.
24. Thank you for calling and thanks for sharing your story.
All right, man.
We appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What about stick 'em?
Now, line 1, I don't have a line 1 here to be sure. I have a line 4 and a line 5. There's nothing flashing on line 1. This is a first. Ladies and gentlemen, Emilio Garcia Jr. is calling on line 1, which is not a line on our phone. So I don't know what to do except to go
Just
to line
go to
4.
line
And then
4.
Emilio, call back on another line. I don't know how he got in because
I don't
we only
either.
have 2 lines.
I
But
don't
that's
know.
how popular our show is tonight.
That's right.
We're actually getting calls
found a way.
on lines and we don't exist. All right. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Gil Granda, and I'm calling from Tampa.
Gil Granda.
Gil
Now,
Granda.
the name sounds familiar, but I'm going to ask you, have you called the show before, Gil?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I called.
Damn, I want to ring the bell tonight. Somebody call for first time tonight. Hi, Gil. How are you?
Good, good. Before I give you a quick story on a barber shop, I'm just curious if the Preston hair that called in, if that was the Preston that worked for Hillsborough County EMS.
Yes, sir, it
that's
is.
it.
Yes, sir.
That's
He'll
it.
be here next week with us in studio, so you can call back and razz him then.
Yeah, yeah. No, I just wanted to give you a fond memory. I can't remember the name of the barber shop. The barber was Angelo, and this is when I was a kid. And it was on Howard Avenue, right close to the White Way Bar, if anybody remembers where that is.
White Way.
Right, yeah.
One of our fans will. One of our viewers will. So if you're out there, White Way Bar.
I remember-
Angelo was the barber.
Right.
And
it
I
was
remember his last name.
Oh, you do?
The barber.
block from there. But I remember my dad would take me in there. I was probably 8, 9 years old.
Uh-huh.
And he would take me in there. And you know how they always have magazines throughout the barber shops on tables. And, of course, this was only where men had gone in.
Yes.
Right.
And I remember there was Playboy's magazines in there. And I used to sneak one, and I'd put it. They had Life magazines, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Big magazine.
You put the
Yeah, I didn't want my dad whooping.
very wily of you, Gil. Very wily.
Sneaky.
He's reading the articles.
Yeah, it was only to read the article.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, barbershops were for men. And so there were those little guilty pleasures around. I mean, most of the barbershops in the old days, if you do the research and you hear the stories from the old days, there was always a back room.
That's right.
And in the back room, there was either a pool table, or there was a bolita table, or there was some nefarious goings on in the back room that even as kids, you kind of wouldn't be allowed to go back there. You know,
It's a
you
very
stay over
mysterious
here.
place.
Yeah, it was a mysterious place with low lighting and
Like a man cave.
guys smoking cigars going, hey, you, what are you doing over here? You know what I mean?
Come in. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, so those are great memories. Thanks so much, Gil, for your fond remembrance. And be sure to call in next week when Preston is here. Can we get your bolita number?
55.
Double nickel. All right, thanks, Gil. Thanks for being a fan, and thanks for watching tonight. Good to hear from you.
Joe, great show, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you, Gil.
much. Those are our fans, man. We got great fans.
That's right. Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
we were talking a little bit. Is there anything, and we'll get to our next caller in just a second. I want to come back to you, Don. Give us a story. Give us a fond remembrance, either a touching story or a really funny thing that might have happened, either in your days as a barber, when you first got started, or maybe as a hairstylist in the later years. And how long did you cut hair in total?
I cut hair, including school, and the time that I was actually in the business was about 5 years, from 77 through, well, maybe 83.
That's not a bad time.
Yeah, and to me, at that time that I was in, I mean, there was, what was the John Travolta, Staying Alive?
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
And it was just a great time. It was a lot of fun.
Saturday Night Fever, man.
There was an energy.
I remember
Yeah, there was
Hair was very important.
hair was very, very important.
Night Fever.
Yeah, and
Hair was not just important. Hair was
Everything.
Yeah,
that's
for
right.
men and for women. And an argument could be made that more so for men, because this was now the opportunity for those guys that had great hair, and I
Coming
didn't have
out
great
party.
hair, to be able to show off a little bit. You
Right.
know what I mean?
And I don't remember so much right now the stories, but I just think back at that time and that era, the going from when I was in high school through that time, the barbershops that were kind of like the really hip barbershops. And I went to the old Jefferson High School, and I think, I'm sorry, that was the most hip school.
It's cool, man.
And we had the Village.
Yes.
Oh, well, excuse me. Before that was Tiffany Barbershop. And a guy named Victor Basiglio.
The late,
and-
great Victor
and
Basiglio, man.
Nadi
Cut my
de
hair.
los Reyes.
Sure.
And then later that morphed into the Village
Yes.
with Nadi and Danny Hernandez.
And was
and
Albert there too?
Rodriguez.
Albert was there, sure.
And then Albert left and went across the street to the Executive Cut with Henry Cardoso. And
Great
then they
names.
combined with Danny, and where I started in the business was at a place on MacDill that didn't have any walk-in. So the first year I was in business, I starved because no one knew I was there.
Right.
Oh.
But Danny told me to persevere, and so he and Jackie Comstock, who worked there, opened a shop, Bangs and Burns, with Albert Rodriguez and Henry Cardoso on Kennedy Boulevard.
Kennedy, right there by my house, man.
And that place, I mean, it was unbelievable.
Great location.
It was just an absolute great location.
And a ball.
The memories,
social event.
yeah, the people. We used to do a lot of the rowdies would come in.
Yes.
I was going to ask if you ever cut anybody's hair
I did
like that.
a couple of the rowdies, some of the Bucks,
Yeah.
couple of the their wives, did a couple of the Bucks' wives,
Yeah.
and it wasn't so much. I can't remember right now any specific stories, but it was the
Just
time.
the sentiment, just the sentiment.
the time. Disco was big at the time.
Sure.
Studio 54.
Yes.
So there was just
It was a party, man. Going to work was a party.
It really was.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know.
I used to get up and think they pay me to do this. And I
Wow.
would go in. It's an air-conditioned environment. You listen
Yeah.
to music all day
Yeah.
and meeting,
And meeting
nice
interesting people.
Yeah.
And
And everybody's
barbershops-
looking good and smelling good.
You know, you not only got your hair done, but it was really more of a social network.
Yeah.
Before,
Yeah.
before
It was.
social
Yeah.
network.
That
was
was
an
our
actual
social
phrase.
network,
Yeah,
brother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before that's where you went to find out what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's go to caller on line
I went
5.
to Bangs and Burns when we first moved back.
Yeah. But that was already in the early
Yeah.
2000s. No, it was 1999.
Yeah,
You were
yeah, it was
already
later. Yeah.
probably with
Yeah.
King Corona
Yeah.
by that time.
Yeah, I was.
Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Emilio Garcia.
There he is.
Emilio.
From line 1 to line 4. Hey, Emilio. Gosh, this hour is going so fast. Tell us a good story that you remember from your barbershop days.
Well, my barber was in Ybor City on 26th and 14th. Joe the Barber.
That was Joe. That was Joe the barber. That was the guy I mentioned earlier,
Yeah, Terry.
26 and
Another
14.
the barber
There
The
it
little
is.
casita that was attached to his house, right?
Joe Paris.
Joe Paris. Thank you, man. There's my bell ring. I've been waiting to ring that bell. Now we know what his name is. His last name wasn't the barber.
Joe
It
the
was
barber.
Paris.
In the 30s, his father and him had a barber shop in the Bronx, New York.
Oh.
Oh,
Father used to get his hair cut in the Bronx with them.
wow. And
Cool.
came down here, and you just happened to reconnect down here.
Yeah, my father started taking me there, but when I was a teenager, I wouldn't let no barber touch me with an electric clipper. Had to be comb and scissor.
Scissors, baby. That's right. No, I saw the picture of you with the guitar, and you had the little.
Yeah.
You fancied yourself a little mini Elvis Presley
That's
there,
a
and
great
I get
picture.
it. I get it, man.
I used to comb it like Elvis, right?
If you had good hair, it was incumbent upon you to have a nice hairstyle.
Okay, do you know the most famous name of barbers in Ybor City?
Give us a couple.
Picadillo.
Oh, great name.
It's delicious, by the way.
Yeah.
Picadillo.
Picadillo, picadillo.
Picadillo.
Right.
Yeah, I can sit here and name you 6 or 7 barbers in Ybor.
Oh my goodness! Listen, we want to capture the. We're gonna have to do a part
Yeah.
2, Stevie.
It's
I
getting
know.
late.
I know it, and we've got a caller, a first-time caller, waiting for us. So we
Yes.
want to get to them. Emilio, give us your bolita number.
45.
Never
45.
changes, and we don't expect it to either.
All right, brother.
Thank you, Emilio. Thank you for calling. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in.
All
Okay,
right,
hold
well-
on just one second because we only have 15 minutes left for the
Oh,
show, so
the
we're
15-minute
really going
girl
by.
got us again.
Now we know why
Roll on.
Emilio came in through line 1 earlier.
What?
He was dying to tell us that story. You know?
Oh,
He found
good
a way.
story. All right, let's go to caller on line 4 because something tells me this is a first-time caller. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Gloria Cagnina Wright. I want to say hello to Don.
Hi, Gloria Cagnina.
Hi,
Listen,
Gloria. How
Gloria,
are
is it-
you?
Is this the first time calling for you?
It is, yes, it is.
Yay! Mario gets to ring the bell. Gloria, what prompted you to call tonight besides Don?
My uncle, Tony Saladino,
Okay.
he had a barber shop on Armenia. This is Tony Saladino Sr.,
Yes.
my mother's brother.
Yes.
He passed away very young, 47 years old.
That is young.
For my dad getting haircuts. We lived on the corner there, and my aunt had the store.
Uh-huh.
Buildings there where he had the shop. And I think Mr. Zayas, if I'm not mistaken, bought that shop when my uncle died.
Oh. Wow.
But it was sportsman.
Sportsman. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
That name
interesting.
sounds
Yep.
very,
Yes,
very
it does.
familiar.
Yeah.
Safe to say, Gloria, that, barber shops and beauty shops, too, for the ladies, let's be
Yes.
honest.
Well, Anthony Gugino had a barber shop there. A beauty shop right next door
That's
there.
what they were usually right in the same
Close,
complex
yeah.
because it was convenient.
Yeah.
And in a lot of not a lot of cases, but in some cases it was family. In other words, Your tío might have had the barber shop,
And my aunt had the store.
and your tia had the beauty shop.
That's right.
That's wonderful, and that's what makes, our Tampa story so special. This was happening arguably all around the country, no doubt. Cleveland, New York, Chicago. Barbershops and beauty shops were all a part of the landscape at the time. But in Tampa, it just happens that everybody knew everybody. So,
And Hernandez did my hair for my wedding, so I remember Danny too.
Yeah. Danny was great, wasn't he, Gloria?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He was supposed to sing in my wedding, but I don't know what happened. He didn't get to sing. But
well, thank you so much for calling us, Gloria. Can you give us your lucky number between 1 and 75?
12.
12 it is, and I think that number is all yours tonight. Listen, thank you for calling us tonight. We're here every Thursday. Don't be a stranger.
Okay, thank you.
Say hi to Barry.
Too.
Thank you, Gloria.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, nice.
I
Man.
coached your son in baseball.
Oh, man, how nice this is. This is wonderful.
I have a little story first.
All right, caller, we see you there on the line. Please stand by.
About the beauty parlors in the back of the barber shops. When we first moved back here, we took our sons down to the Gandhi Barber Shop, which has been there for at least 50 years.
Yes.
But at one time, we were told by one of the barbers, Terry Bollea's mother had a little beauty parlor in the back of the barber shop.
And who is Terry Bollea?
He is one Hulk Hogan.
One Hulk Hogan,
cool.
yes, sir. Robinson High grad.
I just wanted to share that.
That's a great story.
It is a great story.
It was a great old barber shop, too.
And that barber shop, by the way, the one that you're referring to, the Gandhi Barber Shop, recently had a date. It didn't turn out very well with the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
They took that wonderful old building along with the Canela Hotel, which was right there on the southeast corner of Gandhi and Dale Mabry.
Yeah.
They took it all down, more than likely to put up a dollar store.
They're at Britton Plaza
How
now.
horribly sad is that? That's tragic.
Or a
That's
drugstore,
tragic.
yeah.
All right, let's go. Wow, look at our callers. Don't let me go over. Please keep me on time tonight. Caller, you're on the air with the Tampa Native Show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I've already spoken to one gentleman, but it's Nick Bruno from Tampa.
Well, Nick Bruno, is this the first time calling for you?
Yes.
That bell ring is for you, Nick. The first gentleman that you spoke to, that's Damian Garcia. He's our phone answering person. And now you're live on the air. This is Mario Nunez. How are you, Nick?
Great. I just wanted to acknowledge if anyone on the panel recalls my father-in-law, Joe Taglerini, had the Elite Barber Shop.
Elite Barber Shop.
Cass Street, just before it
Pull up the picture.
with Franklin.
Call for it.
We had that picture, number 10.
Stand by, Nick. We're going to show you a photograph here currently. Our producer, Becky Atta, is going to go to the...
picture number 10.
Go to the... There it is. How's that looking for you right there, Nick?
Actually, I'm not looking because I didn't want to mess up.
No, that's fine. That's fine. If you want to, take the phone and walk back into the TV room, look at the TV, and then walk away from it again. But we just want you to see that you ask here for a photograph on the Tampa Native Show, and by golly, we just somehow magically look at that photograph right there. That's the Elite Barber Shop on
See
Cass
behind
Street.
it?
Heyman Jewelers.
Yes.
I bought the first ring ever bought for a girl. At that place.
That's amazing.
That's Mary's uncle.
I just wanted to acknowledge it was my father-in-law, Joe Taglerini, and I think he had two other chairs. One was Chino. I don't remember Chino's last name. And I know I can't think of the third guy now, but you guys are doing great, and it's awesome, and we're enjoying it. And I just
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We know that tonight, especially, the buzz got out there early, and we've got a lot of new viewers tonight. And we hope that if anything else, you guys have found us, and you'll make room for us each Thursday at 7 o'clock. We love what we do. We love having had the shared experience of growing up in Tampa, and that's what we do here each and every week, is share those memories.
All right, my friend, and thank you, and we'll be watching.
Bolita number?
Great.
Do you have a Bolita
Lucky
number?
Bolita number between 1 and 75, Nick.
27.
27 is all for
it
you.
is.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank
Bye-bye, Nick.
Bye-bye.
Wow, we got about
interesting.
10 minutes left, and I just want to show everybody real quick a couple of things while we're talking about Bolita numbers and what we give away here on the show tonight. Thank you for the one shot there, young man, on that camera right there. Tonight we're going to be giving away this. Isn't this the?
That's a great
zoom
looking
right
bag.
in on that, Nick, because this is an amazing. This recycle market bag or grocery bag is one that you want to have in your collection. And if those of you that are Tampa natives, you'll know what that symbol is right there. That is the only Tampa tarpon that we have changed the logo just enough to say Tampa native. And look, we want you to have this tonight. So each week on the show going forward, we're going to give one away. And we also have, stay right there with me, Mr. Cameraman. We also have these wonderful mugs that also sport that very same logo. And we'll make these available to you as well here real soon. But, you know, there's no self-respecting Tampa native that's going to have his café con leche in the morning unless he's drinking it in one of these mugs. I'm just saying. Just for your pleasure, I'm just offering that. So we'll be giving this away tonight. Also, let me just show you real quick, and you can stay right there. These wonderful T-shirts with the same logo, also available. We're taking orders currently. I'm going to be placing an order probably as soon as tomorrow. And follow us on Facebook. If you have Facebook, we are on Facebook. Search Tampa Natives Show on Facebook and our page will pop up. Stevie, we also have a wonderful website that our IT guy right here, Steve Canella, is very responsible for. So if you like the website, that's Steve's fault. If you don't like the website, that's also Steve's fault.
TampaNativeShow.com. TampaNativeShow.com. The best way to find it is just Google Tampa Natives or Tampa Native Show. It'll come up, and we have everything there, videos, times,
You did a great job on that.
All of our shows are archived on that website.
It's constantly evolving, too.
Yep,
So.
yep, it's always changing. Our sponsors, listen, there's no time better to be a fan of the Tampa Native Show than now, and there's no time better to be a sponsor of the Tampa Native Show. So if you have a business or you know someone that has a business, preferably a mom and pop because they're always the easiest to work with, and they seem to understand our story better, all about preserving our history. This would be a great time to reach out to us and let us know. We'd love to come talk to you. We do events. We'd love to do an event at your place of business and help support you, and you in turn can help support us here on the Tampa Native Show.
That's true. Hey,
Mr. Barco, what do you got?
Well, I'll tell you a story. You were talking about
Yes,
you were
Stevie, remember what you were
today.
saying?
I had to go to the dermatologist and for a checkup, and she wanted to burn something on my face. And I told her, "Do we have to do this today?" And she goes, "No, we don't have to." And she goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, I'm going to be on my friend's TV show tonight." And she goes, "Oh, well, you don't want to do that." She goes, what TV show are you going to be on? I said, "Tampa Natives." And she said, "What is Tampa Natives?" She's not from Tampa. And I explained to her what the show was, and she was really enthralled.
There
I
you
gave
go.
her the information for the website.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The nice part about our show, I think it's safe to say, is that if you're from Tampa and you share these wonderful memories of growing up here, this is a wonderful sort of, you wash yourself every week in these memories, and it's a great time to kind of remember. But if you're not from Tampa, it's also a great time to get acquainted with our history, because a lot of times people move here from other places and they don't know. They drive by those cigar factories each and every week, and they're not sure what they represent. They're in Ybor City for the clubbing and the tattooing, forgive me, but they don't realize that Ybor City at once was the lifeblood of this community. And it was actually bigger and stronger economically than the city of Tampa.
It was the economic engine.
It was the economic engine, and thank you, Mr. Martinez Ybor, for coming here and settling here in Tampa and giving us all this stuff that we talk about every week. But at the same time, if it wasn't for Tampa annexing Ybor City, who knows, Ybor City might have been the big player.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We got about 5 minutes left.
Got some
Stevie,
fantastic photos here still. Maybe
can
just
we run
a
through them?
handful.
Can we run through them real
yeah.
quick?
Yeah,
Let's
we can
just
do
go
that.
through them real fast,
Yep.
and we'll get to the Bolita drawing in just a minute. Call them up, Steve.
Starting with number 11, here it is.
Okay.
This is downtown. This is actually Ybor City, but look at the Barber post.
The Barber poles. Yeah,
Front and
they're
center.
Yeah.
again, those are like structures. Those are
Yes.
like lamp posts.
Like columns almost.
Yep. Next
And then
photo.
Next one's from Ricky T. Parnell.
Thank you, Ricky, for sending that in.
Pat's Barber Shop. And beyond that is Buck's Barber Shop. It's a little hard to see way in the back. Not sure exactly what street it is on, but remember Econo Wash?
Yes.
I do remember. I can't remember the street name. I'm sure some people will know.
Hutto's Corner.
Yeah.
How about that?
The window on the right side of the screen, there's a window there. It says Barber Shop. And I
see
think
that.
that was his last name. The barber at one time was Almarico.
Yes, it was a
Almarico.
brother, so a
Was
friend
it?
of mine's uncle.
Oh,
It was
And
a
I'm not
brother.
and I'm not saying that all the barbers back then were Italian, but all
Yeah.
the barbers back then were Italian. Go ahead.
And number 15 this is the bus station barber shop.
How about that?
Wow, look at that. It's
Beautiful. What a
That's
beautiful entrance.
beautiful, yeah.
And then we have about this is
Oh, we need to show
Yep.
this picture here. This is the formerly known as Arky's Barber Shop on West Kennedy Boulevard. This is now Jolene's.
Jolene's.
Yeah, Jolene's Barber Shop. And there it is, Jolene's Barber Shop. And this is Kiki and Raoul's niece.
That's right. That's right.
And her sister, her big
There she
sister,
is.
also is the proprietor of Carrollwood Barber Shop. Ray Murray owns the shop, and that's her daughter. And wonderful tradition of barbering in the family. There's Jolene right there.
And the last photo, this one here, look at this. The tonics up close.
Clubman.
You know, you can't smell Clubman tonic without it taking you immediately back
50 years.
to your early days. All right, we've got about 3 minutes left. Ladies and gentlemen, this show has absolutely flown by. Thank you
As we
one
knew
and
it
all
would.
from the bottom of our hearts for your calls, for your emails, for your photographs. And let me also suggest and request now, if you have more photographs, please send them. Even though the show's over, send them. We want to compile them.
That's right.
And put together a special exhibit of those photographs. And the more personal, the better. So if your uncle or your father or your grandfather owned a barbershop, we want to see those pictures. Please look for them.
We'll make a video of music.
Stevie, let's get the
We'll do
bolita
that.
balls.
Yeah.
And let's let Don make a drawing tonight. Lucky winner's going to win this. We want to hear from you. If you won tonight, send us your... Hold this up, darling. Send us... Look at that pretty blue. That's a beautiful blue. Send us your address and we will mail this to you. Or we can meet you in West Tampa for a cup of coffee and we'll let you buy.
Okay, what is it?
That's B-U-Y, by the way. We'll let you buy the coffee.
Let you buy it.
The number is 59, so it's closest to without going over.
59 is...
56.
First time callers usually win.
Dale Kimball.
Is it 56, Dale Kimball?
Oh, he did.
That stinker. All right, Dale Kimball, you won again.
Not
We're going to have to
first-time
cut
caller.
him off, man. He wins all the time with
You
that.
buy the coffee, Dale.
Yeah, you buy the coffee. All right. Any closing thoughts?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks
Thank
for
you for
coming
coming.
by.
This
Thanks
show
for
is
coming by.
phenomenal. Y'all are phenomenal. It just is something that Tampa is really lucky to have. I'm happy to
you.
be
That's
here.
sweet.
What a great endorsement.
That's
And
great.
there's our highlight.
For the night.
There's our highlight. Let me just say on behalf of everybody that puts this show together, I don't want to go over, Beck, so make sure you keep me on time. That's Becky Yata, who sits behind the TriCaster and flips all the switches and changes all those pictures, and Damien's answering our phone, and there's Autria. She's the one that keeps the sound working great. Nick's the one zooming the camera, and we couldn't do it without that collection of people that show up each and every week with love in their heart to do this show. Why? Because we don't pay them. But we'd like to. So if you have a business that we can get your sponsorship, maybe we can get these guys some money. All right. Cups up, everybody.
Let's do it, guys.
Let me just say that it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being in front of you each and every week. And we'll do it again
really
next
is.
week with Preston Hare. So be sure to come back. Sunday, Jaivada, Club Único, Letter Carriers Hall. 30 seconds to go. Letter Carriers Hall, 12 to 2. Come have some Jaiva Enchilada. That's Tampa Steve right over there. This is the 15-minute girl. That's Mr. Don Barco, King Corona Cafe and Cigars in Ybor City, 7th Avenue. I'm Mario Nunez. Let me just say, salud and happy days. We love you, Tampa.
Yes, we do.
See you next week.
Thank you so much, Don.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you again. Bye-bye, everybody.
Back when we were younger and everything seemed new, we used to have a lot of fun, yes we did, no matter what we do. Sleepy days, long summer nights, going anywhere we please, with love that I could call my own, love that I've always known, the city that I call my home, a home from which I never roam. This love affair was meant to be. I love her and she loves me. I remember Tampa, oh, she remembers me. She remembers me. I remember, yeah, yes I do. Oh, I remember, yeah, me and you. I'm a Tampa native, Tampa native, can't you see? I will share my story with you to preserve its history.
All right now, don't forget, Thursdays, 7 p.m. on TBCN, home of the Tampa Native Show.